most of the boat reviews you see are not by the boat owner, but I actually bought this 2025 Saxdor 400 GTO about 6 months ago. But today I want to tell you about the good, the bad. I want to introduce you to the sales guy that sold me the boat and give you a full unbiased review. We're going to talk about some of the other competitors in this same space. And it's a perfect day here in Sarasota, Florida to go for a boat ride. So come on board and let's go for a little cruise.
There might be 30 to 40 400 GTOs in the US, period. If you really have to make the comparison to cars, you gotta think like Rolls-Royce.
So I'm normally reviewing RVs, so no knock on all of the cool boat reviewers out there. I'm a big fan of Naughty Styles, but I don't think there have been any owner reviews of the Saxdor 400. Now, I did do a review of the 2024 Saxdor 320 that I owned before this. I traded that 320 in for this 400 right at 6 months ago. So we're here at Marina Jax in downtown Sarasota, Florida. This is one of the coolest marinas in the country, but let's fire up these twin 400 Mercury V10s and go for a little cruise. All right, so it can get a little nerve-wracking parking next to these super expensive boats. A little later in the video, we're gonna interview Jeremiah, and he knows a lot of the prices of some of these expensive boats around here. We'll talk about those. Now, one of the big things I really like about this boat is it does have the joystick with the bow thrusters. So that definitely makes life a lot easier. This does have the sunroof as well, so we can press one button for the roof open. And that's actually something that one of the little issues I've been having in it. So fully transparent review here. I'm pressing the roof open button. Oh, so it's intermittently working. So it took a few times of hitting it. Now it's working. If that's the biggest problem I've got, I'm doing really good. One of the other small issues I had was a bow thruster motor went out. Not the end of the world. They did get that fixed, but when the bow thruster went out, the joystick depends on those bow thrusters. So when I was using the joystick without a bow thruster, the boat was kind of, cockeyed. It wasn't really maneuvering like it should. But as soon as they got that repaired, the boat's been just maneuvering great. Having that just makes life so much easier. And behind me here is Marina Jax in downtown Sarasota. We're gonna go over to the bay here in a little bit. Now, this boat does have a lithium battery system on it with an AC in the cabin. When we get to anchor here in a little bit, I'll show you more around the boat. I just wanna get it up on plane here. They say it goes about 55 miles an hour. I did when it was brand new. I got it up. Now with a full tank of fuel, that's going to be tough. And then this boat does have bottom paint, so I do have it wet docked right now, so a scuba diver has to come scrub it once a month or every 3 weeks to make sure there's no barnacles building up on the hull. It's getting a little hot out here. We're in the end of October, and it was still in the 90s yesterday here in Florida, so should be cooling down here soon, but a lot of the snowbirds have been showing back up here in Florida. Now this I say coach a lot because I'm usually reviewing motorhomes and coaches. If you're not familiar with the channel, we have the opportunity to film some of the nicest motor coaches in the world. The $3 million Liberty coaches, Newell coaches, all of that good stuff. So this boat is 12.4 meters, which is 40.7 feet long. It's got 11.75 beam and a 2.5 foot draft. Now, one of the nice parts about the helm is we've got a wireless charging port right up front here. You've got simple controls. You've got the large SIMRAD screen. We'll press the Mercury here. Let's see how many hours we've got. Go to maintenance. We're at 73.5 hours, give or take. So here we can monitor our battery levels. We've got our chart right here, so we can see you can see a lot of tracks here of where I've taking this boat around. You've got all the sandbars. Here in Florida, you've got to be really careful of all the sandbars and shallow areas. And this does have autopilot, a lot of cool features that I don't always use. I think simpler is better sometimes. You know, the more stuff you have, it's the more stuff that can break. Now, let's get up on plane here and roll a little bit. We're just below 50% of fuel. This does have a 265-gallon fuel tank, so that can get pretty heavy, but see how quickly we can get up and how fast we can get going here. We are at 25 miles an hour, 37. 45, 46. 48, 49. 50.3, 50.4. We're going 51 miles an hour. I'm gonna slow it down for just a second to just, talk about a little bit of the good and bad. So the good, obviously, we were just going 51 miles an hour. Effortlessly. The way this hull is designed, it just cuts through the waves. A little bit of rough water here in the Sarasota Bay today. I've definitely seen it much calmer at times, but it did 51 at no problem. Now, some of the fit and finish stuff, like this little thing back here, right here, this button, I need to actually let the warranty department know about this, but it's just not staying buttoned. It starts flapping in the wind. Someone's got to come back here, fix it. It's just a huge pain, huge inconvenience. Some of the other little fit and finish issues we've had. Now keep in mind, at this price point of this boat, this is over 40 feet. You've got a lot of bells and whistles. I mean, the twin V10s alone are a huge expense. So I've got a little bit of champagne taste with the beer budget here. So some of the quality fit and finish stuff isn't quite as nice as we're gonna find in some of the real high-end boats. And I come from the high-end motorhome world, and we're usually reviewing the nicest motor coaches in the world that are extremely refined, where I would say this is more of that kind of Winnebago quality, that normal production motorhome quality. It's definitely not like a Prevost, Liberty coach or a Newell coach, anything like that, but 45-foot motorhomes are $3 million. So some of the fit and finish items that they have fixed. I did have a couple of the ceiling panels fall down. The adhesive just didn't hold up in the hot, Florida muggy weather. One other little thing, they re-engineered this, like this popped out. So this little rubber stop, this is not factory. If you look at other Saxdor 400s, this is much beefier than it originally came from the factory. And it's, it works pretty well. They fixed, this screw is kind of coming out, but now if you see, and I'm, like I said, I'm being kind of nitpicky here, but even after they repaired it, if you look real closely here at this screw, and there's some smudges here, but that screw is at a little bit of an angle. They had to re-caulk this. This was starting to bow out a little bit. I mean, again, this is like fit and finish stuff, small problems. I can't think of anything, other than the bow thruster's not working for a little bit. The moonroof still, let's see if we can get it to work right now. See, I press it once, but this is part of boating. Like, if this is the biggest problem we got, we're doing amazing. So now one of the coolest features on this boat is back here. Now, to put these swim platforms down, we will need to cut the engines. This also does have the sky hook. So say we wanted to come out here at night and just enjoy the Sarasota lights and just relax and turn on some music. Well, it's only 8.5 feet deep here, so we probably could drop an anchor if we wanted. But if we didn't want to mess with dropping the anchor, we could just hit the sky hook button. And what that does, here, I'll show you guys right now, is it's gonna make this boat stay in place. So We have to engage that there's no swimmers here, confirm. So now that the skyhook is on, the motors are gonna start dancing around a little bit back there. Now, one of the downsides of that is, you know, when the motors are running, if you are downwind, sometimes you're catching fumes from them. If you're sitting on the back of the boat, usually when I put the skyhook on, I like to sit on the front of the boat so you're not getting that noise, because those motors are working. You know, you can see they're dancing around back there. We are, you know, staying in place here. This does work off of the GPS with the electronics. Now, one of the coolest options this has is the swim platforms, but we're kind of out in the middle of the bay right now, so let's cruise over to the Sandbar, throw the drop-down swim platforms down, and see what that's all about. All right, so we just got out here to the Sandbar, so we're gonna drop the anchor down so we can come up front here. You've got this side pass-through way with this door. One of the other complaints I have, it's not a huge complaint, but it has that locking mechanism. Sometimes if we're going really fast, the wake will break that and the door will slam. It kind of creates a loud noise, you know, a little bit disturbing, but not the end of the world. So here we will release the pin for the anchor. It does have a power windlass. Now that we have the anchor dropped, this is where this boat really shines out here on the Sandbar. So it's got the two drop-down swim platforms. We can just pop that down. So here I've got the controls for the swim platforms, and you can see that port platform dropping. We've got a couple noodles tucked behind that platform right now. And then same thing for the starboard side, a little latching mechanism right here to unhook that. So this boat has a lot of different areas to hang out when you're hanging out on the Sandbar. This lounge, you know, table area seems to be one of the more popular areas. And then the rear sunbed is also very popular. Now we can make this a little bit bigger. There is actually a compartment below with a bed that I'll show you in a minute, but this will extend out as well. We've got two levers. One is gonna move it back, and then the second lever will drop that down. So now you've got a very large area to lay down, hang out, get some sun, depending on, you know, which way the boat is positioned. Now, say the boat is facing where you're starting to get some shade here in the rear of the boat, you've got the anchor dropped, and you still want to lay down and get some sun, we can go up front here. And then one of the other popular places to hang out on the boat is this front area. You can kick back up here. My 320 did have a sunbed up front. I kind of preferred having the sunbed on the front of the boat. You can still definitely lay out here. You can lower this table and kind of use it as a cushion or a leg rest, but also a real nice area. You can have some, you know, drinks and hors d'oeuvres up here. Nice place to hang out on the boat as well. Now, sleeping areas, let's show you around the sleeping areas a little bit. So let's step down into the cabin. We've got the AC blowing, ice cold on a hot Florida day. Let's get these lights on in here. You can see not a ton of space. You know, nice little spot to maybe lay down and take a nap. We've got the Brooklyn Bedding weighted blanket. I'll leave a coupon code in the description below where you can get 25% off on any Brooklyn Bedding products. I highly recommend these blankets and their mattresses for any boat or RV. Now down here we've got our, you know, simple breaker panels. In this compartment, our JL audio and AC controls. A little spot, you know, a little storage cubby here. And then a closet. Right now it's loaded with our camera gear and extra towels and blankets. And then this does have a bathroom on it, a pretty good sized bathroom. Now you can see I'm 6'2", I just hit my head. So this may be one of the reasons I may be thinking about stepping into a bigger boat, is for that reason right there, is if you're 6'2", you just can't stand up here. Now I can almost stand up in here if the door is open, but when we come into the bathroom, I do have to duck down a little bit. I mean, I could still, you know, go to the restroom if I need. It does have this little drop down toilet cover if you're not using the toilet and you need to just use this as maybe a storage area. You know, it's got a nice vessel style sink, full length mirror here, lots of mirrors, nice fan, some good medicine cabinet space here. I don't think those have ever been opened up, but you know, simple bathroom, little shower here if you need to take a shower. There are showers at the marina, so usually that would be a little bit easier for me than showering in here, but if I took it on a couple day trip down to the Keys or something, that would make sense. Now there's another small compartment down here. If we fold these stairs up, you could maybe have a small child or someone that's comfortable sleeping in tight areas. I just use that for storage down below there. There's the original, you know, Saxdor owner's manuals they gave me in a bag there. They gave me a couple towels and a couple hats too. You can see another Brooklyn bedding weighted blanket back there currently being stored. So, you know, you could technically sleep maybe 3 people comfortably up here, but there's another spot for the non-paying customers here to crash out if one of your buddies wants to get some rest. So coming back here to this part of the boat, we can pop this open, and then you can see a small staircase going below. Now, right now, there is like a mattress down here. I do have my my e-foil currently being stored down here, but you know, it's a large storage spot. That AC is blowing ice cold. I've slept in RV bunks that are much smaller than this. It's got its separate lighting here, separate lighting controls, accent lighting. I mean, really not a bad place. If it's clean, I wouldn't want to have all these boat covers in here and cups. I'm just kind of using it for storage. But, you know, if I had to take all that stuff out, I think I could comfortably crash out down here. So a few other important parts about being on the Sandbar is having refrigerators. We've got 2 of these pull-out refrigerators. They also have a little freezer area, plenty of spot to keep drinks cold. We do have the outside Kenyan cooktop. Some good drawer space here as well. You know, nice, deep, high-quality drawers. There's another drawer below the, oh, there's the good stuff down there. And we also have a outdoor sink here. So really a whole outdoor kitchen with your refrigerator, your sink, your cooktop, everything you need. And then this doubles as countertop space. And then here on the back of the boat, we've got a second Kenyan cooktop here and a little outside sink with a mirror. So kind of an outdoor kitchen, almost 2 little outdoor kitchens. And then you also have another access point to the storage spot that we saw below. Now, when the bed is in the back position, you're not going to be able to access it from the rear hatch. You would have to move the bed forward to lift up the rear hatch there. Now, in a second, we're going to go talk to one of the most knowledgeable boat salesmen I've ever met, the guy responsible for twisting my arm to buy this boat. We're going to learn a lot from him, but one of the last features I want to talk about on this boat is this rear glass area with the 2 doors has a very high-end feel to it. Nice separation between your rear swim deck back there. I would call that almost a swim deck. And then you also have the drop-down platforms here. Just a really awesome boat overall. Now, one of the things that I think Saxdor nailed it on this boat is the lighting at nighttime, especially when we're hanging around the marina. It's got not only accent lights on the ceiling, but also accent lights on the floor. Is so important and really makes for a nice setting in the evenings. But let's go back to the marina and learn from Jeremiah with MarineMax. Jeremiah is the one responsible for twisting my arm into buying the Saxdor 400. So how did we end up with this boat?
Dude, that story is awesome. I mean, you literally bought this boat out of the wrapping.
Yeah.
Like it was straight up in white Saxdor wrapping from Poland, sitting on foam blocks in a parking lot, and you were like, yes. It's the only one that's ever come through Sarasota. Saxdor being an up-and-coming brand, they've not been a lot that we've been able to get our hands on, and when they've come, they've kind of jumped quickly, and you just happen to, well, you were an owner. That helped. Yeah. You were a 32 owner, and you're like, hey, that thing looks dope. You're tall. Headroom comes into play. This has got a lot of headroom for what's a sleek profile, so it was match made in heaven.
I'd have to look back at that 320 video we did. That was almost a year ago. We went over what I wanted in a new boat, some of the potential boats. Now, what's, you know, some of the big selling points of this 400 GTO from what you've heard feedback from the owners? What's the strong points of this boat? You know, what's it all about?
There's a million. Every owner is going to give me, going to give you. You've got your own perspectives, but there's 3 things that bring these in. They're incredibly maneuverable. Your 320 was as well. Bow thruster and joystick. This boat maneuvers. We are sitting in Sarasota, Florida's premier location. This is it. If you are yachting, this is where you want to be access to downtown. That means you're busy. That means there's a ton of boats, a ton of vessels around you. As somebody like you is progressing into yachting, which I think it's fair to say you have, that's where you're headed towards, and this boat brought you to, that brings a little element of nervousness when you're rolling against a 35 meter that's right off your bow, right off your stern when you're coming and going. Having a boat that's really controlled in a bunch of varying conditions matters. This is really maneuverable. We can't ignore aesthetics here. This boat cuts a gorgeous profile. If you don't have a million pictures, I've got a picture of you sitting at the Sandbar about 7 different times. The boat looks really good, and the boat is priced extremely nicely for what it brings to the table for these owners. So those are 3 big things that my owners have used to find themselves in a 400.
Yeah, and how many 400s have you been seeing on the market? What was the first year of this boat?
This was really a 2025 model year boat. Boats are not at all like cars. They're so far removed from it. So a company like Saxdor is actually quite large in the recreational boating space. They're pretty big. That owner had built a number of brands prior. He knows how to spool up and spool down. And there might be 30 to 40 400 GTOs in the US, period. This is a hand-built product, so the ability to turn it out, if you really have to make the comparison to cars, you gotta think like Rolls-Royce. Like, that's the only place you can go to compare, because that's how the production line and timelines more line up. This is a build that's gonna take a factory a couple of months. They can only give the US so many of them. So there's not that many. If you're a buyer out on the market and you see a 400, oh, maybe, but I'll catch the next one. The next one might not be there.
Well,
it might just be the one.
Yeah, when you called me the day it came in the wrapper, I mean, you twisted my arm, but it's such a cool boat for the price point. That's what really got me, is the amount of features for the price point. You know, now what other boats are going to compete with this boat in the same price? Now, you work for Marine Max.
Yep.
So you sell cruisers, azimuth. What brands do you sell?
So we're cruisers, azimuth, we're Ocean Alexander. That 35 meter behind you came from us. But that's why this brand exists, because you're not competing against a whole lot. This falls in a price segment like we sell Aquila catamarans. For instance, their twin engine with smaller horsepower, 36, fits in the same price category as this. And so when we're comparing, again, we're on a 40. We're on a 40, it's over 11 feet wide. If we go look at like our Sea Ray brand and you look at their 40, that's probably fits in a similar class, a little wider, triple maybe, but that boat is about $1 million. It's certainly a category above, and this boat doesn't have a lot of competition in its category. This boat kind of stands on its merits. It stands a little alone.
Yeah, and I think MSRP was about $619 on this 25. Now, do you have the new 26s out yet?
Okay, so you're right on MSRP. For your viewers, we got to be fair and say you've got a little bit of experience behind you buying boats. This is not your first purchase, and you kind of knew a good thing when you got to it. Yes, there are 2026s on the ground. They don't exist anywhere near where you started. So your MSRPs are into the 700s and 800s on a 2026 400. You don't have to expect to pay that. You're going to get some discount, shows. You can work on that, though European boats have a little different pricing structure. We don't negotiate quite the same ways as we're used to, but so just, I don't mean to overstep, but your MSRP was light for what the boat is.
Okay, I timed it right, and it's
a little experience coming into play.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm taking notes from you. Now, we've talked about some of the other brands, you know, in this category, or what would be the next step up from this boat? In your experience, what would you recommend for me, the way I use it?
Oh man, that's a huge conversation. You are, again, to reference back to those pictures at the Sandbar, you're so active. That's the very best way to describe you. You are active, you are genuinely engaged in yachting. So for you, there are larger day boats that exist. They still have outboards, but they grow in size. Like my Cruisers brand has a 50. There's also an element, the more, you know, you've talked about staying on the boat. You're right downtown, right? You don't live very far away, but far enough away that a really cool night on the town, being able to walk to a bed might be better than driving to a bed, if you catch my drift there. And so we get into something like a more traditional diesel cruiser. So looking at a 42 to 46, 7 foot diesel cruiser might make some sense if you're okay being another 100 feet from the Sandbar around us. And that's a conversation we can have on or off camera, but if you're willing to get a little farther away, you have a really cool flight board. If you're doing that, maybe the distance to the Sandbar doesn't matter as much if you're not so concerned with standing in the water. If maybe the deck space, you know, some of the amenities here are nicer, then that extra 100 feet might not matter, and a diesel boat might work for you really nice. Now other locations, forget the hotels, forget anything. We're completely self-sustaining. We don't need dock power. If my lithium battery can only make 6-7 hours, it doesn't matter. I've got a generator. I can do 40 hours on the hook and not worry about it. So that's where a diesel boat might be in your future.
Now, what are the current deals right now? Are you guys selling a lot of boats right now? What's the current state of the market here? We're in October of 2025. So kind of going into the season now where all of the snowbirds are coming back into Florida. I'm sure there's a lot of buyers in the market down here this time of year.
If you've gone to a coffee shop, you're starting to see that line's getting a little longer. Every market is specific. We're just starting ours. So we're just getting into the buying season. Fort Lauderdale Boat Show is next week. That officially marks the beginning of the market in Florida. The boating market has stayed strong, but there is negotiations happening that we didn't see during COVID years. So you're getting into where you might steal a deal on a leftover boat. Someone's been sitting on one a little bit too long, a model that was ordered with the wrong color. You know, we're sitting on a good, cool Florida boat. Well, if this boat was sitting with like a dark interior color, some people get custom. You know, you got a black, a dark gray, a Nardo interior. I don't want that here. That boat might make 6-8 months in inventory now before it sells, before someone's willing to come to the table and play ball.
Yeah, do you have any crazy deals? You've got access. MarineMax is the biggest boat dealer in the world. Are they just in North America? Are they all over the world? Or I know they're the biggest.
A little bit of a complicated question. Technically, it's global. MarineMax owns IGY, so a lot of the really famous worldwide marinas that you know, for instance, anybody ever seen a TV show where there's charters running called Below Deck? That a lot of those move from the marinas that MarineMax owns, IGY Marina. So we're a global company. A lot of the retail sales happen in North America. Not exclusively, but a lot of that happens North America. Inventory is pretty strong. It's not really bloated. The inventory levels are still probably a little light compared to where they were before, but they're way better than having this conversation 18 months ago.
Yeah, now any crazy deals in your inventory right now? You were telling me about a cruisers that you were fired up recently that you think is a pretty strong deal?
Yeah, I had one. I don't anymore, which kind of sucks.
It's sold?
I had it. Yeah,
oh, hey,
yeah.
Congratulations. To
It wasn't mine, but the top end of that line is beginning to refresh. But at the bottom, some of it had sat. So there was a 42 from 24 that made it through September of this year before it picked up a contract.
Yeah, and there's a Cadius next to us, actually, and that brings up a separate conversation that I'd like to pick your brain about.
Yeah.
This next to us, I think he said it was a 1745 Cadius, beautiful boat with that black hull, but he was saying the gel coat is starting to fade a little bit. He was talking about getting this boat painted possibly, and I was recently asking you about, the difference between gel coat boats and painted boats. Pretty sure this is a gel coat boat.
It is.
What's the difference in cost between painted boats and gel coat boats? How many of your boats that you sell are gel coat versus painted?
The cost difference is monstrous. The boat we're sitting on, right? To gel coat a 40-foot boat, the gel is going to go down in the mold before they ever lay a piece of fiberglass. The gel goes down, fiberglass goes behind it. That's why sometimes you see weave or texture in it. It's part of the process. The colors, for me to color this hull from a white hull to a gel hull when it's being produced is maybe $3,000 or $4,000. When a boat gets painted, it gets painted at the end of the process instead of the beginning of the process. It's tremendously expensive in comparison. So for me to take this boat out of the water and repaint the hull sides, probably run you about 30 grand.
Wow.
So somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 times as much to paint a boat as to gel coat a boat. Now, if you're doing them both after the fact, if he wants to refresh his 8-9-year-old gel, he's gonna spend a little less for gel, but not a lot less. The prep is a lot the same. The material comes in a few bucks less expensive. Gel doesn't have a clear coat over it. That's why you wax gel so efficiently, and that's why people talk about painting them. So paint is harder to repair to make it look perfect if you have dock rash. We are in an environment that's unlike cars. You have a lot of opportunity to touch something all the time. Gel is tremendously easier to repair. Paint is much more difficult. Never can be repaired in the water. Big areas. If you have a gel chip that's like that big, you can repair an area like this, like a football. If you have a spot like that in paint to blend it, to make it work, you're probably gonna repair an area that's as big as the area we're sitting in right now. So there's pluses and minuses to both. It's more resistant to the sun, it does better, but you got to pick your poison.
Yeah, I know. I showed you a picture of my buddy's 103-foot Choi Lee
Choi Lee,
Global.
yeah, beautiful boat.
$1 million paint job on that boat when you get into the real big boats.
And that Nardo Gray Azimuth behind us is going to be much the same.
Is that gel coat or is that full paint?
No, that's paint on that hull, and it's tremendously expensive to change the color on that boat.
Now talking about these big boats, there's another big boat coming in. What do you think that 35 Azimuth Grande sold for new?
You can spitball on boats when they start having a meter in their name. You can add about $1 million per. That one was a little less than that. She traded hands right about $30 million originally.
30 million. Whoa.
Yeah, as you climb, I have a client with a 40-meter Benetti on order right now. That is legitimately a $40 million boat.
Now, what about this boat that's rolling in behind us here right now? These guys are pros. You could tell it's not their first rodeo. What do you think? That's a 75 Princess.
Yep. Princess builds a wonderful boat, UK-based, world-class boat. He's running off wing controls in the back. I would expect that boat would have traded hands, I'm gonna guess the year, 22-ish, 21-ish. It's beautiful. Might be older and have a great crew. I would expect that boat to be in the $6 to $8 million range when it's sold new. Maybe a touch more now, but it should be right there. Princess builds a wonderful boat.
What do you think that boat's worth now if it's 5-6 years old?
If it's a 5 or 6 year old boat, it should be worth 3, maybe 4. It should be worth half.
Okay, yeah.
Of its replacement value at 5 or 6 years old. That's a good expectation.
All right, I've got some more questions I want to ask you, but they're running a generator and bow thrusters right there, so maybe we'll let them wrap
rock
this
and
up
roll.
here. Yeah. Now, hanging around here, it's easy to try to keep up with the Joneses.
You're surrounded by everything from Cabos to cruisers to Princess and Azimuths. Yeah, it's easy to chase the next one.
Hey, always good to have something to set the next goal. Now, talking more about Saxdor, I know they've been really making a name for themselves, and Marine Max has been selling a lot of them. I've heard about some new models, so I know there's a 270, a 320, and a 400, but also a 340 as well?
Yep. So the 270 has been domestic. It's been to America before. They even have smaller all the way down to a 20. There's a model lineup and there's a model lineup in the US. They have all the way down to a 20-footer. It doesn't come to the US. The 27 did for a little while and no longer does either. So for them, starting as small as 20 going up to 40. For the US, starting at 32 and going up to 40. So you have a 32 open and closed GTO GTC. So you have two 32s. You have this new 34 that's a little bit more focused on the folks that want space under air. Super cool boat, totally separate, individual, but it's a single model right now. It doesn't have a bunch of splits. So your two 32s, a 34. Now we're gonna jump to the 40s. In the 40s, you have a GTO, what we're sitting on, a GTC enclosing this, and now you have a new GTS that's going to be at the show. That's kind of cool. It's got some different layout. It's an evolution of the model, maybe blending a little bit. It's a cool boat. We're pre-Fort Lauderdale, so I don't need to spoil it
what's
too
the
bad.
difference, for people that don't make it to the show, can you give us a little bit of, what's the difference between this GTO and the GTS?
A GTO and a GTC, not the question you're asking, but a GTC, the C is an enclosed boat. It's a cockpit boat. It has all of this in glass with a door in the rear of the boat. You can completely run this under air. Granted, you have an enclosure here that you can do the same, but that's more permanent. We're looking towards your Pacific Northwest, your Vancouver, all of your northern boats. Remember, these boats are built in Poland where their boating schedule is a little bit more like that, like Pacific Northwest or New England areas. So they're stretching their seasons out, getting some seasonal protection we don't like in Florida. The GTS is really kind of blending that. And I don't want to go too deep. It's got a cool look to it with a different layout on the seats. Mainly it's an open boat. Mainly the changes are right here. And it's picking up some of that stuff we liked on the 32. So the whole helm changes on the GTS. Please don't get me in trouble here. And I hope Saxdor doesn't get mad at me, but a little bit more your center line seating. And so it's moving even more towards that open. They're focused more on running, to your point, getting there, hanging out, sitting on your center line, moving your helm kind of into the middle. It's an evolution of the boat we're sitting on. Hopefully that doesn't go too far and get me in trouble.
Now, will they make a boat bigger than the 400, do you think?
We don't know for sure. And that's not an industry line. I'm telling you the truth. We don't know for sure. We would hope so because of the success. And we know a little bit about the history of the owner. And he hasn't built a lot of companies to really, really large boats. So Axopar, it's a company that he built and he sold. It seems like he's more dedicated to Saxdor. So we hope to see that model line run farther than it did in that company's history. With Saxdor, he's gone so far as to build an entire university. My opinion, it seems that he feels the crunch of industry-specific talent. And so he's gone so far at home as to build an entire university for Saxdor to train the next generation of builders, mechanics, etc. that really know it. I'm hoping with that level of input that we pretty quickly see them progress past the 40 we're on. Right now, they haven't given us plans for larger.
Looking forward to seeing what they come up with here in the future. And, maybe in the near future, too, you may twist my arm on one of these bigger cruisers. You just got back from the cruisers factory, so you've been pretty fired up about cruisers lately?
I have. So I don't want to go very negative because it's easy to do. When you have something made by hand, we always have some problems and that sort of thing. But we know that foreign built boats, finding some specific parts or processes to repair a problem can be challenging, time consuming, right? I get a little bit excited about cruisers. It has debuted online, so I'm not breaking any rules here, though official will debut in person at the Fort Lauderdale show. Cruisers just debuted an American-built Adventure Series boat. It's freaking cool. It's as wide as your boat and even heavier than this in a 38-foot model. It's a cool boat. Runs really well. I know for sure there's plans for bigger. And so that is something when we don't have a lot of companies that are looking at this adventure boat with outboards and going bigger with it, for me to have back pocket knowledge that I have an American-made company that has got the price point right. They do. And we know there's bigger coming for sure, stages to be determined. That's hard not to get excited about. There's a lot of this style of boat in the market. People are looking at it, right? And so when you know you've got something coming that maybe the market doesn't have yet, Cruiser's a 70-year-old company.
Yeah.
7-year-old company that's coming to the table with something that we don't get to see a lot of in the adventure world. Yeah, I'm in.
Now, I've been seeing some posts from cruisers lately of some boats that kind of looked like a new line that I've never seen before, that kind of looked like this similar style, shape of boat. What's that all about?
That's the boat, man. It's called a 38 VTR, Venture Trek and Roam. And this is not in any way a commercial for them, but I have been on one. I've driven one hard, a lot. And hey, the US, if the boating world, if there's guys like you who have experience in the world, have gotten into yachting, doing all that, and you like this style, the US has got to get on board.
What's the price point going to be on that 38 VTR?
It's going to come to the deck at the show for under 600.
Really?
Yeah,
oh wow.
Dude.
The Saxdor's got some competition coming their way.
That's why I said honestly earlier in the video, and maybe it makes cut, maybe it doesn't, but there really isn't a competitor to this boat we're sitting on, because there hasn't been. It's the truth. But there's going to be.
So can I see one of those in Fort Lauderdale? Where can I see this 38 in person?
You can come see it at Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to have both an open and enclosed model of that boat at Fort Lauderdale.
All right, well, man, we're going to get this video live. So Jeremiah is going to be at the Fort Lauderdale show. This video should be up before then. What booth are you going to be at? Are you going to be at the Cruisers booth this year? Or?
I actually am, yeah.
I can tell, I'm from Wisconsin originally, so
Don't sleep
they're
on
out
the
of Wisconsin,
cornfields.
and yeah, that's my old stomping grounds there. So, well, Jeremiah, I know you're busy. A lot of snowbirds coming in town, a lot of yacht sales happening here. So, appreciate you twisting my arm to get into this boat. It's been great overall. Got to give Saxdor a thumbs up on this boat. We'll see what's next, though. Appreciate your time. And hey, if someone wants to get a hold of you and purchase a yacht or talk about boats with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I think cell phone still dominates. Hit me with a text. Do you want the information for it?
We could throw it in the description below.
Awesome.
No tire kickers, or do you care about tire kickers? We want serious and qualified buyers only. Is there a minimum net worth? What's
How about this? Link, you can drop the cell phone in there. Send me a DM if you're tire kicking. It's the Boat World on Instagram. Just hit me there. If you're just, questions, industry, whatever, anything, I am always happy to answer. I totally mean that. And maybe try to reserve the cell phone a little bit more for like, hey, I've got a question about something specific, that would be helpful. It can get overwhelming.
We'll leave your social media. You've been dropping some social media content, sharing a lot of knowledge. I've always learned a lot from you. You've got a wealth of information. So really appreciate all of that. And thanks for coming on and sharing that with us today. Appreciate you, sir.
Brother, thank you. Appreciate you.
Also appreciate all of you out there liking, sharing, subscribing. Hope you're all having a great day. Thanks again.
There might be 30 to 40 400 GTOs in the US, period. If you really have to make the comparison to cars, you gotta think like Rolls-Royce.